Alright, I am back with another Destiny 2 video, and ahead of the exotic quest tomorrow, I wanted to talk about something that is kind of broader for the general health of Destiny and something I hope to see in the future based on things that we've seen develop this season. Uh, One thing that has debuted this season that has not been the case in past seasons is the idea that the base playlist for the seasonal activity is +5 power at baseline. It is harder than a normal seasonal playlist normally is. You can usually blaze through things like Nightmare Containment or Catch Crash without too much issue, but these 3-man +5 power heist battlegrounds are actually somewhat difficult. Once you kind of get a rhythm down, once you kind of get a build going, there you can breeze through them relatively easily, but they're still never just the utter cakewalk that most past seasonal activities have been after a short while, be they 3-man or 6-man, because you are just so over leveled for them usually at baseline, or even if you're not right away, just a couple weeks into the season, you probably will be. This was a conscious decision to kind of reflect player feedback that they wanted harder content, but not necessarily something that's like a GM or a master mode, hard mode raid or dungeon, but something that is more challenging than what we had before. There are some issues with this. This makes the activity longer. Takes more time to complete these activities. You see a lot more like 10, 12, 14-minute runs as opposed to 6-7 minute speed clears of things. And the result is a chest that will probably not give you anything all that valuable in the end. It's like one drop of seasonal things. It is not the best method to farm weapons or patterns or anything like that, so that's kind of an issue. However, I think most people appreciate this change in difficulty, and I heard an idea kind of right when the season started that I really like and I really want to expand on, and that is the premise of taking this +5 power differential and bringing back the old heroic strike playlist. This was a harder version of the existing strike playlist that I don't even remember when this started, but it was way back where it was like a somewhat more challenging version of the existing strikes, and we don't have anything like that now. We either have the base Vanguard playlist, which is just if there's any evidence that like Destiny needs to be a little bit harder, it is that playlist where you can beat it with all blue weapons and but whatever. It is an entry point for new players, for free to play players, and it is, just easy kind of on purpose. But there's no real alternative outside of weekly rotations of Nightfalls, which are laden with champions and then have all these escalating power levels, and you can only run essentially one version of the Nightfall at a time most of the time. So it's not really quite the same thing. A heroic playlist, I feel, could blend a lot of things people are asking for depending on how it was handled. For a heroic playlist, I like the +5 power differential. I think that should stay. I would avoid some trappings of harder content, like no locked loadouts, no match game. I would say no champions. You can't have champions in a playlist that's going to have every possible strike and battleground in the game. Like, that's not going to work, and I don't think champion restrictions are kind of annoying enough as is. I think the +5 differential alone is enough of a boost to make it at least somewhat more challenging. Like, you could have more yellow bars and things like that, but champions would not work in playlist form like that because you can't constantly prepare for all 3 kinds of champions every single time, so that wouldn't work. But so at baseline, it's the power thing, but you'd also have to come up with a rewards track to make it actually worth it. We can kind of debate what this should give out. Like, obviously there are like ghost shell mods that give you boosts of upgrade modules or prisms sometimes when you beat something, but I think you would need to find a middle ground between the current system, which is essentially the only thing you're getting is some legendary shards, glimmer, and then maybe one of the Vanguard weapon drops, and then Nightfalls, which are like ascendant shard farms, and dedicated Nightfall weapons and then adept weapons for GMs. There's got to be something in the middle ground there. I would love a chance at something like Ascendant Alloy. I think a just consistent chance to drop something like prisms or upgrade modules without needing to put on a ghost mod for it would be interesting. But I also think, as many have said for many, many years, that this could be a time to bring back the skeleton key system, which is the old Destiny 1 system where you would get skeleton keys and you would unlock a specific chests with them after they were earned to earn strike-specific loot, usually themed for that strike. This is something that everybody has wanted to come back in some capacity for a very long time now. And while we sort of did that a little bit with Nightfall loot, it generally has not really been themed to the strike. It is often old and reissued loot that just comes back, like vanilla Destiny 2 stuff that comes back with random rolls. Occasionally it's new things, but very, very rarely, or reprise Destiny 1 weapons, but that's not really what people want. That's not what people are asking for. Maybe some of this stuff could be Nightfall loot, but like over time, I would like to see some sort of project that designs specific pieces of loot for a skeleton key system. Maybe that could be integrated with Nightfalls also for those specific strikes, but I really do think that we need some kind of like themed loot back, whether that is a piece of armor, whether that is a specific weapon, something like that, in a way that we don't have now. And you could integrate crafting into this, is much as I'm never like the biggest proponent of crafting for something like this. If you say have a dedicated drop from a strike or two, that's one weapon. Like maybe you do have a chance for that to be a red frame, and you're farming that skeleton key to try to get that pattern for that weapon is like kind of a long-term project, and it might take a very long time. But I think that could be a good use of a long-term grind that you could implement there, while kind of merging it with the old skeleton key system everyone likes. Other things, I would really like to hear from Bungie soon about whether PsyOps Battlegrounds and now Heist Battlegrounds will be integrated into the Strike playlist coming up. We saw this with Season of the Chosen Battlegrounds. Those were added, but we have not heard one way or the other if the 6 Battlegrounds will be added here. Lightfall's probably going to give us 2 strikes, maybe, based on how past expansions have worked. But it does seem like kind of a no-brainer to modify the PsyOps and Heist Battlegrounds to be strike-level activities. I really enjoy the Battlegrounds in the Vanguard playlist because of their enemy density. I think if they can just reduce, especially for Heist Battlegrounds, maybe reduce the time it takes to clear them, I think that would be a good option for the playlist as a whole. And then if we're doing this, heroic modified version of the playlist. They have said that they are going to do some modifications to the core playlist in the future, including the Strike playlist. I don't know if that's coming with Lightfall necessarily, but sometime next year. They always have they have like a rituals team that tackles things, and strikes appear to be on the agenda. For now, it's been a lot of like the rituals team did the comp rework, and the rituals team is like giving all the vendors the focusable engrams, but a strike thing would be a larger overhaul than what we see now. I think we've made some progress in this field, like the idea of playlist-specific weapons, and each new playlist gets a specific weapon to drop per season. That is progress. That is still not, with the skeleton key thing, but I would like to see kind of a merging of these systems over time where we go back to themed loot, go back to, being able to kind of target focus specific things we were trying to get to drop, as opposed to just, this is the season of the Vanguard submachine gun, and then it just keeps dropping, forever, and then you can focus the old stuff. I don't know if this will happen. Like, we can put aside the skeleton key stuff, but the basic idea of a heroic strike playlist with rewards that actually feel worth doing the heroic strike playlist for, I think is worth it. I'm not saying the base playlist should be eliminated or gotten rid of. I get that is kind of a PvE vessel for new players that we sort of need in the game. But I think, any player with any amount of experience trying to run that it's so mind-numbing because of just how easy it is. And like, it's not even good for kill farming because everything dies so fast that you're competing with your 2 other teammates for kills all the time. And like, it just is not a rewarding activity, even if occasionally like the playlist weapons are kind of good and whatever. So we need more work there. Bungie said they are doing more experiments with power level over the coming year. Well, we don't know if we're going to arrive at a they've eliminated power level thing. This idea that we're seeing here with the +5 power differential on just the normal seasonal playlist is a very interesting concept. It's something that it was part of the reason the Witch Queen Legendary campaign was so fun, because it had no champions and it had that set power level. So it requires you to come up with a build that is like reasonably okay, fun to play, and able to execute in somewhat challenging content, albeit not end game content, quote unquote. And then eliminating champions means no loadout restrictions in that field. So that is my pitch there, based on kind of general ideas that have been circulating around the community, and then merged with very old ideas about bringing back skeleton keys, and then my future hopes of integrating battlegrounds and things. I feel like there are enough pieces here to make something cohesive out of it, and I hope that that's something they take the time to do, because the Vanguard playlist has needed it for so long, and we have not really approached anything like this. So anyway, let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.